I hate small talk. It's meaningless. I can't do it. It scares me. These are all phrases I've used in the past, maybe you have as well, around small talk because it's just this thing that can overwhelm us sometimes, right? It doesn't have to, but I think there's a question that quite often comes up in small talk that just makes us not want to do it. For me, it's this one. What do you do for a living? It gets me. Every time it gets me. One, I don't want to ask it. Two, I don't want to be asked it. What I want to ask is, hey, what's the meaning of life? Quite often, people don't want to respond. Or I'm too scared to ask the question and so I don't ask anything. Or I just don't go. If that's the case, right? It's not uncommon. It's really common to have that fear around small talk. So we're going to talk about a couple of things that we can put in to hopefully get us to the point where that question, what's the meaning of life, can actually be a reality. And we can have those deep, meaningful, connected conversations. So let's dive into a few of these. Why is small talk challenging? And what kind of questions could we ask to draw conversation in towards that end goal of that deep, meaningful conversation that quite often quiet, introverted, dare I say shy people are actually craving, right? So let's do it. One question I've actually got really used to asking now is, what's a show you've seen recently? And initially I always thought, I don't want to talk about TV, I want to get deeper into conversations. But actually I've found that by asking that question, the response somebody gives me tells me a lot about who they are, about their interests, about how they see the world, because we gravitate towards TV shows that are actually aligned with our interests, right? And so I find that's a really, really good small talk conversation starter to move beyond the real surface level that we hate, okay? So that's a good one. Secondly, I love to ask, if you had the whole day off, what would you do with your time? Because by asking that question, it gives the other person the opportunity to be insightful. Like, let's have a little insight into what would you do if the whole world was your oyster for one day? You had no commitments. And generally people are then going to get pretty excited, right? They're going to share things that they really, really would want to do. And that allows us to ask questions again. And the conversation expands beyond just that again, surface level, small talk kind of zone, right? Another one I love, and I actually started doing this one with my parents via Zoom back in the UK, because if I ask them, oh, how was your week? Oh, the responses I found, one, it's about the weather, firstly, right? They love chatting about weather. Secondly, it becomes pretty routine because we know how to respond to that kind of question. So I've started asking, what's one thing you've done this week that really excited you that you weren't expecting? My dad gets me on this one because he's a pretty routine, rational, straight thinking kind of guy, and I love him. And when I've asked this question, suddenly you can see his mind ticking because he's thinking, oh, something that I wasn't expecting, something that excited me. And suddenly these questions open up opportunities for more conversation and more questions. And I love that one. Give that one a go. I think you'll be surprised by it. And now let's look at one more. This one is on the verge of having to get a little bit deeper, a little bit more meaningful, even though it's fun. So it's about intrigue. It's about vulnerability. The question is, what's one quirk about you that nobody else knows? I don't know why I just put my finger on my nose. That's staying in, right? How weird. What's one thing about you, a quirk, that nobody else knows? And this is going to make somebody think, oh, wow, something interesting about me. And people love to talk about themselves, but it's not who they are, what do they do? It's like, how do I behave? What's a weird thing about me? And these quite often are fun, and you can then jump back and forth between each other. And actually, if you're in a group and you did this with other people, suddenly there's commonalities here because you might do something habitual as a weird quirk, and then somebody else is like, oh my God, I do exactly the same thing. And suddenly you guys are like best friends. But you wouldn't have been, especially when meeting strangers in those small talk group situations. that you wouldn't have found out about them before. I love that one. That's a cool one. And from these questions, we can then pop in with other wording, but hey, what's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of life? What is the meaning of life? I reckon people are going to be a little bit more open to answering that question and sharing with us on a deeper level once we've established these kind of open-ended questions that really have helped me with small talk massively. So how I look at it is small talk is a gateway to big talk. It's an opportunity for me, it's an opportunity for us and you to engage with people on that small level to begin with, and through those questions that we can ask, we can get to the deeper, more meaningful conversation. So it is a gateway, it's an opportunity, it's a learning practice, and I love looking at small talk in that way now, as opposed to being, oh my God, I don't want to do it, I'll do anything but small talk, just keep me away. So I'm going to leave a little question here. A question? No, a link to a video. It's an exercise we could actually try to help us if we feel a little awkward in conversations as well. So I think you might get something out of that one. Check it out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in that video.